we've had a lot of conversations over the years, but I think it's the first one we've actually recorded.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've always been careful.
It's been obviously fun to watch what's happened with basketball, and you and John Calipari are friends, and I see he's got a locker here at the Blessings.
Yeah, him and Kenny. Yeah.
You're a big sports fan, and this golf club is an example of that. Tell me about the Blessings where we're sitting here today.
Well, when I'd fly across the country on airplanes, I'd look down below and say, well, that looks like a golf course, or that looked like a golf course. You look at landforms, you look at relationships, and I've always enjoyed golf and been fortunate. And so I was thinking about what to do with the set of land out here, and I've been out here in Johnson now almost 30 years. When I came to the big city of Johnson, we were an unincorporated city and a population of 200.
Yeah.
Now we're up to 4,000. We're in an incorporated city, which means you can get tax dollars for roads and all of that stuff. And, the area has changed. And so I was thinking about what to do with the land. And a lot of land, as we see, goes to the development that's going on for the greater good. And I just decided, I'd like to build a nice golf course. We got a lot of nice golf courses around Bella Vista, and Paradise Valley, and Stonebridge, and Springdale, and all the different ones I grew up playing. So it's it's a labor of love. It's a vanity project too, but it's a peace of mind out here. That's why I call it Blessings. The good Lord's blessed me. The blessings to be with your friends, to be outside, to enjoy the game. The game of golf is a game about really measuring yourself. Because one swing, you're going to have a great shot, and one swing, you're going to think you never played golf before. So it's a special place. I think it's been good for the community. The men's and women's golf team play out here. They're currently, I think both of them are in the top 10 right now. Women headed to regionals, and the men will know they're regional here next week. So it's fun to watch the young people grow. We've got 2 or 3 people that came through the golf teams that work at my company, critical jobs, stuff like that. So, yeah.
You've had a lot of impact on the university over the years. Your family has, Tyson Foods. This facility, though, has really been home to the golf teams for a while now, right?
Yeah, since we opened it up.
Yeah. And what did that mean to you? Why did you want to incorporate that?
No, it's just about giving back. So to me, it just go back to the philosophy of my granddad and my dad, giving back. So how do you give back to the communities? A lot of people give to what I might call the big projects. For me, my family's always tried to support things that people don't think about. So you think about track, you think about golf. One of the things I'm most proud of is the Gene Tyson Early Education building on campus. Up till we gave that money for those students that are going to become our teachers, they were still going to school in a World War II Quonset hut. So that was the commitment on our campus to our teachers in early education. You go to an old military Quonset hut, and we're going to help you become proficient in early education. One of the other things my dad did was help the Arkansas Press. So, if you do things the right way, there's what the university has to offer, because the role of the university is to teach. What's the role of a coach? The role of a coach is to teach. We sometimes get caught up that the role of a coach is to win. You always want to win, but the real role is to teach young people to become the best they can be. And we want to win national championships, be it football, be it basketball. And, I was fortunate to grow up in the 60s when I was a teenager. And I remember my first game was in the old the old stadium. It's the same place. I saw Lance Allworth run a punt back against Texas. We got beat 33-7, but it was a 60-some-odd yard punt. And Lance Allworth, who became one of the greatest receivers in game and had the nickname Bambi. So I grew up in the 60s in sports and the Southwest Conference and the traditions of that. And then, but the role of, I think, sports is to bring our community together. Sports is kind of an amenity for a community. It's a set of activities that we all can go and support. And, if you think about Northwest Arkansas today and the amenities of the sporting programs, as people come to work for me in Walmart and J.B. Hunt or do their own, individual businesses, now they have a chance to see high quality sports. You think about the women's softball team, you think about the soccer team, and you think about the different sports. I mean, we're competing at a very high level in one of the best conferences. Last week, Brad and them were playing in the men's SEC golf championship. They're number 10 in the country, but they were the 6th seed in the Southeast Conference. So you forget just how strong, which means people and kids are going to go to the schools in the Southeast Conference. So, the history of sports has been there. We used to take the bus from Springdale to Fayetteville for a quarter. They'd pick us up in downtown Springdale and drop us off in the square in Fayetteville. We'd go over to the stadium and see the game. So it's been woven into the life, because Northwest Arkansas probably had less than 50,000 people when I was growing up, all 4 towns. Fayetteville was the big town, probably had 20,000. Springdale had 5 to 10. Bentonville and Rogers were just getting developed. So the evolution but the university, the sports and the education have all been, part of what I've seen and grown up. And most of it's been for the good. So if I think about, how do we help young people succeed, and we remind the role of education, the role of sports is to make people better. And, if you do it right, occasionally, we'll have a Fulbright scholar out of the university. We'll have a Truman scholar. Or we'll have people go, create things. And occasionally we win national championships. But as long as we're competitive and you got a chance, the tough part in sports is to realize some days you just don't win it all. But if you're in the game and you're there every day having a chance, then you go, I was in the game. I have no regrets. I was prepared. I participated. And the clock stopped, and I just wasn't ahead. But you're a champion because you were there competing.
Your family, Tyson Foods, has had such an impact on the state. With others, the Waltons come to mind, Walmart. You guys have impacted this state in huge ways, and now we're seeing that, trickle into sports in some ways. And while sports aren't the most important thing in the world, we understand that. It does give us a sense of pride or something to react to. What has it meant to you to be a Razorback fan and to have some sort of impact, whether it's golf or other things with the Razorbacks, and most recently, Coach Calipari becoming the head coach?
No, I think I'm like all Razorback fans. I mean, you can't explain being a Hog fan. It makes no sense being a Hog fan. Either you are or you're not. And once you know you're a Hog fan, you just want to see our kids play hard. You want to see them compete, and they can win. You've seen winning. You've seen the winning with John McDonald in the programs. You saw it with what Nolan and Eddie did. You saw it with Coach DeBryan in baseball, and then you see with what Van Horn's doing it. You can win. All you got to do is show up and play, and you just got to say, okay. It may take, people say it's tough to recruit here. My answer is, no, it's not. Now, you might have to call 5 people instead of 2 people, but it's not hard to recruit here. You just might have to make a little more effort and talk to me. And then you'll find people who really want to be here, want to be committed to your company, be committed to Northwest Arkansas, and be committed to the success of the university.
Has that been true in your business from a recruiting standpoint?
Yeah.
Like, you just had to find the right people?
You always want to find the right people. It might mean I had to call 5 people instead of 3 people. So it's 2 extra phone calls. Sometimes you realize the first 3 are the ones you don't want, because you're trying to match attributes, qualifications, and skill sets. But if we'd had a trouble recruiting, we wouldn't be here.
What do you tell people that don't know Arkansas when you're recruiting them to come work for you?
I said, just come see. Just get on a plane, come see. Because a lot of people see our state. We forget a lot of people are traveling, and they see the state cutting across on Interstate 40. I mean, it's a great drive across the state, but if you don't go north or south off the interstate, you don't get a chance to see our state. But from Fort Smith to Memphis, about a 5-hour drive, you'll see the diversity of the geography. You'll see the diversity of the towns. But if you don't get off, you can't see who we are because you're on an interstate. So your reaction to our state is an interstate, whether it's from Texarkana up to Little Rock or over. So if they get off the roads and just turn off the interstates, as we all know, I mean, there's a lot of things. Now, downside of that, state's getting a little crowded.
Yeah, it is a little. I mean, it's the best kept secret. It's not a secret anymore.
Most of the growth for our state's been really, really good. But if you think about, I-49 connected north and south, because when I was growing up, Route 66 came out of Chicago, got to Joplin, and turned west. And then everything else was underneath. So you had the old Highway 71, which is still a great road. I drove it about 6 or 7 years ago down through Mountainburg, and just reminded me of the beauty. I mean, the I-49 is a beautiful drive too. But unless you were turning off 66 or to come up here, you didn't see it. Now I-49's connected, the airport's connected, and everybody sees the beauty of it. We got the Buffalo River is a national park. To think that got started and voted in by Senator Bumpers and Dr. Compton, we're never going to have that developed. We're going to have this big, beautiful river right here that's not going to have a lot of, activities up against it, except people being on the river floating during the summertime and, fishing or having a beer and laughing and giggling with their friends. So by a lot of things, we're pretty lucky that we got to where we are. But there's people that work hard. You think about, the Stevens family, the Dillards family. You think about, Alltel and them getting started. You think about the Murphy family, the Higginbotham family that started TCBY. You forget all these people just started things. And, with the growth over on the northeast side of the state with the steel industry, and you got Reisler. There's just a lot of things that go on that people don't realize are critical to the state and critical to the country. And
before we move into the present and kind of talk about more where we are now and your love for the Razorbacks and recent involvement that's come to light, I want to try to reflect a little bit. Can you take us back just to John Tyson as a young man growing up, what you learned from your dad, your granddad, how it's impacted who you are today?
Well, yeah, because a lot of people don't understand. Man, when I started, we had one plan, and so summer times were playing Little League baseball, vaccinating chickens, and hauling hay, and that's what you did. You rode your bicycle all over Northwest Arkansas, all over Springdale. You had the freedom to ride. You'd go out on your bicycle in the morning, and somewhere around 9 or 10 o'clock at night, somebody'd say, "Go home." We'd all go home. We didn't argue. We didn't say, "No, I'm not going to go home." The town watched over each other. What you call a real small town type community. But when I grew up and played sports, we played all over the state. So we had to go to Texarkana. We had to go to Little Rock. We had to go to West Memphis. We had to go to El Dorado. That's how we played across the state. You'd leave, Friday morning, get to Texarkana at 3, play basketball, and at midnight, come home, get home 6, 7 o'clock. So you played across the state. You saw the state. And with the population, you can pretty well stay in Northwest Arkansas and play triple or, Class 7 type sports and stuff. But you got to see the state. You got to see the personality of the state. You get in those yellow buses and, haul off and go play and come home. And sometimes you'd work Saturday morning. You showed up, you worked hard, and if you weren't working hard, somebody else was probably working harder than you. And it's just kind of non-negotiable. I've had an interesting path. I've grown up. I've had my struggles, but mostly I figured out how to put one foot and forward. Agriculture will teach you a lot, because come springtime, you're planting a corn crop, and you got to wait to see if you're going to have $2 corn or $6 corn. And so you learn the rhythms of life and the rhythms that go with the agriculture and the food business. But a lot of people in the company taught me. It took me a while to realize people that were trying to be my mentors. They were trying to teach me. How did I have to learn to be humble, to say, they're giving you your time to teach you something. Are you really aware? Are you paying attention to the conversation? Are you taking advantage of what they're sharing with you? It's a habit that I think some people forget. You learn it in sports because the coach is trying to teach you to be better. Some coaches today would probably argue, do the kids really listen to them, or how do they help change? But I was blessed. The people that worked with my dad helped me and taught me, and I guess we've done okay.
Yeah, I'd say so.
We've done okay, and really great. I get to work with a lot of great people at the company. We're up to 144,000 people.
Wow.
Up from about 2,000.
And that's all developed in your lifetime since you were a kid.
Because
And your involvement in leadership.
Yep. And I never thought our company would be big. I always thought I'd run a big company, like Ford or GM or something like that. But it turns out, our company's grown. It doesn't feel big to me because I've grown up in it. But the real question is, it is large and it is complex. So I have to reorientate myself with people coming in to say, this is a large, complex company. You have to be in their shoes as they come into. It's like somebody stepping up from high school ball to SEC ball. It is different. It's larger, it's bigger, it's broader, it's more. So how do you teach people as they grow with their capacities and expertise? So
you mentioned, like all of us, going through some bumps along the way. I know your faith's been something you've talked to me about. What would you say has been a guiding factor or changing factor for you in I don't know, the last 30 years or so?
I would say that we all have the right to disagree, but then we also have the responsibility to come up with a solution. So when we get in a room, we all have the right to our observations, but we can't stop that from having the responsibility to come up with an answer. Sometimes you get in a room and people just lock down. You've forgotten what your first obligation was when you came to the room. You came to the room with the responsibility to find a solution, which means you're going to have to, there's that word out there called compromise. Compromise is not a dirty word. It's really not. But in today's society, that word's almost become a bad word. Compromise is the art of politics. Compromise is the art of working together. Compromise is the art of being in a relationship. I mean, you go home to your significant other, you got to learn how to compromise with him or her. You got to go home and compromise with your kids. So, it's about the right to have the conversation, but the ultimate responsibility is to find a solution to keep working together. And sometimes you got to agree to disagree, but that in effect is a responsibility. But to say, well, we don't have an answer, to say we can't find an answer, no, yeah, you can. It just means you're probably going to have to give a little bit. Life's about giving a little bit in multiple ways.
I've been fortunate to get to chat with you over the years because you like sports and I happen to be in sports. And so we've had a lot of conversations. You haven't always been pleased with the idea that the Razorbacks can't compete at the highest level, whoever might have that ideology. And you would point to the other things that have been able to come out of the state and have success. As a Razorback fan, what has it meant to you? And how have you wanted to see that grow? And why did you think it could be better?
Oh, I think, the reason it could be better, if you start out selling yourself short, you're going to come up short. Doesn't matter. If you walk into the room and say, I can't, what's going to happen? I can't.
Right.
So you walk in the room and say, I can, and you can. And so I think, human nature, sometimes you don't accept that you can. It requires hard work. To win requires hard work. Whether it's time, whether it's training, whether it's learning, business, life, school, raising a family. But the rewards from that effort are just outstanding. I think the hardest thing in life is learning how to finish second. Because if you learn to finish second, people are going to say, why would you say that? Because you're in the hunt all the time. If people go, well, golly, there he or she is, they start to look over their shoulder. They're going, there they are. They know how to win. A lot of people, they'll win, and the next time you won't see them for 10 weeks. But there are those schools, there are those players that they're there every week, and you go, there they are. There they are. There they are. And you start to feel that. I mean, you watch the NBA basketball, there they come. You watch, you go to Tiger. Everybody knew Tiger had a lot of seconds, but boy, they knew when he showed up, they were looking over their shoulder left and right. You look at Scotty Scheffler today. You start to look, so when you get comfortable finishing second, you don't like it. But it lets everybody know you're there. And boy, they start to panic because they know you can probably beat them anytime, anywhere, any day because you're there. And you think back to, Nolan in his days. Everybody knew when Nolan put that team on the court, they were there and they were scared to death. They didn't know when, how, or whatever, but they knew Nolan, they knew Eddie, and to a degree Coach Howe. They're there. And you're not like, oh, well, don't have to worry. It's like, no, that's who they are. That's the coach. That's the leader. And you start to panic a little bit. You just go, there they are. They're right there. Are they over here? Are they over there?
It's like
Where
Scotty Scheffler right now playing golf is always there.
Yeah, they're there. They're right there.
He's always there.
Always there.
Yeah.
And so that in itself, learning how to be in a position, like knowing that you won't maybe get the win, but everybody knows that you're there, and sometimes you might get lucky, but most times you're going to make them panic, and they'll hand you the trophy.
We've seen Arkansas have some success. You know, you mentioned some of it. I've seen you at multiple games sitting there courtside, and you're like every other fan, you know, the highs and the lows. And then one day, you know, we wake up and we hear like John Calipari might be the next Razorback coach, and I think Razorback fans probably like, that's just not even possible. Like, it's not even possible. And now looking at it, it's still unprecedented. I don't know of any scenario that is similar to that one in all of sports, where something that seems so unattainable and so out of your league is a reality. You were right in the middle of that. Were you having any of those thoughts?
When I talk to Hunter, you know, it's about managing talent. So when I talked to Hunter about, you know, the opening there, you know, my thoughts were either go big, or in business, you lose the term, it's almost like a lateral move. You're going to get somebody to fill the spot, you're going to keep the trains running, so to say. To me, thinking about where you are, putting a management structure together. And he said, well, you know, well, who would you hire? And I said, well, Coach Cal, of course. I mean, I wanted to go, I mean, what kind of silly question is that, Hunter? Because of who he is and stuff like that. And so, yeah.
So that kind of started it.
It started it, yeah.
And then what happened?
You know, he said, well, is he interested? And I said to Hunter, I don't mind making the call, because I don't know if he was interested or not. But I said, if we're going to make the call, you need to have all your ducks in a row before you make the call. You need to know it's funded. You need to know you've worked with your chancellor. Charles Robinson's been great through this deal. The board of trustees, because it'll move pretty quickly. And he said, you know, let me get on that. And then so what was interesting was this was, I forget what day it was, but it was in the evening. And I said, well, I'll just give Coach Cal a call tomorrow morning, so to say. And something in my gut said, no, just go ahead and call now, because I didn't want to have any regrets. And Coach Cal told me that had I not called that night, he would have been on an airplane already leaving Arizona. So
they wouldn't have had that in person.
They wouldn't have had the face-to-face. It doesn't mean they wouldn't have talked.
But it was just right there.
But I think we all know in sometimes the meeting of face-to-face goes a long ways versus the Zoom call or the phone call. I mean, when you're at the table breaking bread together, it changes the dynamics in a room. So I think that went a long ways. And you have to, I do give Hunter a lot of credit of that meeting coming together. I was not in the room, so obviously it was a positive conversation. But Hunter did a really good job of managing the process. And I'm not sure Hunter gets enough credit in his role as AD of putting the activities together, putting the conversation together. The first time him and John met face-to-face for a private time there in Arizona, and the continuation up to getting the ink dry on the contract. So Hunter did a really, really good job on that. Hunter's commitment to make our coaches better, to give their coaches what they need. I don't think enough people appreciate how hard he works behind the scenes to get that done in today's competitive environment.
That's great insight. I mean, most of us usually don't understand what we're seeing from afar, and we just react without a lot of knowledge of what's really happening. I think there's all kinds of misinformation. Some of it may be true about your involvement financially, or what your role was, or what you told Hunter there. What, if you don't mind sharing with us to the degree you can, what was your role there?
I would, you know, there needs, everybody out there, we need NIL money, okay? Let's go. Let's get this on the record. I didn't write a big check for NIL. That's a miss. But I did help, like a lot of families come in. You put money into the foundation. So the Razorback Foundation is a place where a lot of salaries are managed. They do it for Coach Pittman, they do it for Van Horn. So the foundation is the place where they do the add-ons on top of the base salary of the universities. So I made a commitment to Hunter to help in that context of how he would like to allocate funds to help Coach Cal put his staff together through the Arkansas Foundation. The NIL does set there, and I've helped in the NIL, in different sports. Primarily, I try to help the sports nobody else thinks about.
Right.
Track, nobody thinks about track, women's track, men's track, women's golf. The bigger sports are something, a lot of people seem to be more attracted to. But in this situation, it was like a lot of families do, or a lot of people contribute to the Arkansas Foundation, and they take the funds of the foundation both for facilities and coaches' salaries. But on the NIL, there was some help, but not to the degree that I wrote a blank check for Coach Cal out there. So we all need to help, because the NIL helps all sports. And one of the things I worry about, and I might be going off a little off script here on the NIL and the portal issue, and I don't know how they resolve this, but I was reading the other day, there's 1,600 people in portal today, sitting there. Only 400 of them have been picked up right now to go to other schools. If they're not picked up, are not going to go to college and get a college degree. Now, something's wrong when young men and women get a chance to go to college on a scholarship. Now, they make the choice to go into the portal thinking they can go to another school or, pick up some, quote, NIL money, and then they don't land anywhere. All of a sudden, they don't get to the other school, and now they don't go to school. They don't go get an education to become a teacher or a coach or a business person or go on to medical school.
Well, our incentives changed, right? Like all of a sudden we're incentivized by something other than.
And there's not a backup plan to it. There's not another way. Okay, if you go into the portal, it doesn't happen well, and I'm not saying the NCAA should mandate it. Well, yeah, you can go. It'd be like somebody saying, well, I'm going to go look for another job, Johnny, but if I don't get it, I want to know I got a job
I'm
here.
in the portal.
It's kind of like,
I'm in the executive portal.
Yeah, the executive portal. So, but it's something I worry about. And I also worry about what's going to happen to what I call the Title IX sports. So somewhere in the next year or 2 years, this has to be resolved in a way that's for all sports, because as we talked earlier, the role of sports and the role of academic scholarship is for people to come learn, succeed, and contribute in whatever way. And they don't talk about that side of the argument of the portal or the NIL. We get caught up on, did I get the best portal? We don't talk about the 20 kids that came out that don't go to another school to finish their education. So you think about somebody who's a senior, goes into the portal, doesn't get picked up, and they're 2 semesters short of getting, and don't have $20,000 to go to school to finish their degree. They're that close. They're touching it. How do we have that into the conversation? How do you have that, into the resolution? It's so complex. I've identified the problem. I've got absolutely no solutions for it.
Well, I think I think that's been the issue. We're like, we've got to, players deserve more, but we haven't been able and weren't able to, and still haven't been able to figure out what the best way to do that is. So now we have a lot of maybe unintended consequences.
Absolutely,
and
unintended consequences.
It's sort of just taken off without us.
Yeah. So I worry about it in the context of that in sports and how we do that. So when I think about the conversations with Coach Cal and Hunter on NIL, we come back around. How do we ensure people can finish their education? What does that look like? When they go, well, the option would be the coach to take them back. Well, if you say you're leaving a team, then you've kind of left the team. How do you build that trust on a team? Well, you left the team, now you want to come back because you couldn't go somewhere. So when I think about my conversations and my long relationship with Coach Cal, I've known him 20 plus years now. Mm-hmm. And we talk about leadership. We talk about growing young men. We talk about making people the best they can be to succeed. As we spoke earlier, what's the role of education or college? It's to make people better. That's the role of a university professor. That's the role of a coach. That's the role of a teacher. That's the role of a business mentor. It's the role of everybody that we influence is how can we help them become the best they can be, both professionally and personally. And sometimes, it's like, well, we got to win. Yet winning is a point in time. But to see young men and women succeed for 10, 20, 30, 40 years after that brief moment in time in school for 3 or 4 years is I think, more rewarding than the national championship. Nice to have, and for when the shot goes in, and I was in Charlotte when Scotty made the shot, but we forget that sometimes in the debate. And so when if you think about Coach Cal, they say, well, he's not going to stay here. I go, no, wait a minute. He stayed 9 years at Memphis. He stayed 15 years at Kentucky. I mean, the guy doesn't move. He comes in to try to make a difference. And, right now he's a 5-year contract, and my guess is he'll probably stay a little bit longer because he's having fun. He enjoys teaching the young men, and that's what we're all supposed to do, Because without my mentors or my coaches, I wouldn't have had a chance to grow. I think about there's a gentleman over here, Gerald Williams used to be the men's football coach at Springdale High School, and I remember this debate. Springdale was starting to talk about having 2 high schools. And so when Gerald went in front of the school board, I think there were some people hoping he would say, no, we need 1 high school because we got to win championships. His answer was, the role of high school is to give as many people a chance to do things, whether it's the cheerleaders, whether it's the band, whether it's the teacher. Yes, we need 2 high schools because that's the purpose of education, is to give as many people a chance to touch things and to do this. And so I think about that role, and our responsibility, both as leaders and coaches, is to create an environment where you're committed to making them the best, you teach them, you grow them, and you have fun along the way. Yeah.
It'd be easy to say that you wanted Cal to become the head coach here because you want Arkansas to win. But of all the times that you and I have talked about Cal, I don't think you've ever really talked about him winning. You told me he's a good person. Like, he's the kind of guy that you want
your kids to be involved with.
So tell me more about what, in your heart, why'd you want Cal? I know obviously you want to win, but there's more to it than that for you.
Well, to me, if I look at how he tries to coach and how he tries to lead, I think about Brad and Shauna. I've listened to them
golf
more.
Coaches.
Yeah, the golf coaches here. I've listened to them more once, talk to the parents and say, what's your goal? Is your goal for your child to get to the LPGA or the PGA Tour? Well, that might mean for a year or so they're going to get worse, because I've got to reframe them on their fundamentals, because just shooting 70, which they can do all day long, will be a nice college career, but you're not going to make a living unless you're shooting 65. So how do you have the conversation with the parents about what is our goal? Is the goal just to get a college education, to get a business degree, to go to work? If that's your parents' goal, then you know kind of maybe what the deal is. You're still going to try to make the kid better. But sometimes in making people better, you got to back up a little bit. You got to undo some things. You got to change some habits to go backwards, to go forwards. And a lot of times that's hard because your children are already starting to peak. I mean, they're already kind of in the top of the top conversation, but to look at the parents and say, look, next year's going to be a little rough because we're going to undo things, we're going to change things because we got to go here to go there. And so when you hear Coach Cal talk about those things, and you hear other coaches, I remember sitting around with my dad and Frank Broyles, or sitting around with my dad and Sam Walton, listening to them talk about success and how you build success. It's about, are you doing everything to make sure there are no regrets in preparing somebody for success? And part of that might be some steps of like I said, and repeating myself, you go backwards to go forward. And that's what Coach Cal thinks about. And I think all good leaders think about, my job's to make who I influence the best they can be. And not just to try to win a championship and I'm not making the kid better. I just kind of hold them right there, because if I just kind of hold them together, I might win the championship, but the person never got better. Sometimes you might have to sacrifice that turnover, but if it does work, you're going to win by 10 instead of a last second shot. I like winning by 10. It's a lot easier on me on the sidelines.
A little less stress.
So that's what I've known about Cal and several different. My friend Butch Davis, successful football coach and coached, with Miami and the Dallas Cowboys, won Super Bowls, won national. You talk about how do you prepare people? How are you always prepared? How are you teaching? How are you coaching? How are you showing, the last little steps? I'm going to tell you a story about Butch and I were sitting down, and a couple of our other friends that we've known each other since we were down in the film room down when Butch was coaching with Jimmy down at the Cowboys, and he said, "Watch this film." And Butch was the defensive coach, head coordinator and stuff. So me and Woody Bassett and a few other were watching, and we watched. He said, "Watch this film. Watch this film." Finally, we go, "What is it, Butch?" So he says, "Well, pay attention. So watch the guy's right hand." So the guy was a deep offensive lineman, and depending on how he was going to block, it was how he would cup his hand. If he was going to go forward, his hand was like this on the knee. If he was going to back up and pass block, his hand was like that on his knee. That's subtle. So if he was going to push, pull and push, and if he was going to back up and pass block, his hand was there. That kind of detail, that kind of awareness of giving you that little edge to make a difference is what business is about. That's what makes, I think all the companies in ours, they know where the customer is, they know where the consumer, and they're looking for that little edge that says, okay, we're aware. So
You said to somebody at the press conference, I think you said something like, we're a damn proud state.
I said, damn proud state.
Yeah. What was that about?
We're a proud state. Be proud. It's okay. It's okay to have expectations. It's okay to dream. This state, at one time, this state was called the land of opportunity. So right now we're called the natural state. But when I was growing up, the motto of this state was the land of opportunity. I still think that should be the motto of this state, the land of opportunity. That was the historical motto. And somebody for a marketing deal changed it to the natural state because of all the great attributes of our streams and lakes and things like that and mountain climbing. But when I was growing up, this state was called the land of opportunity. And I still think that way. You look at all the things that have been successful here by people showing up and working. So that's when I said the damn proud state, land of opportunity.
It feels like the opportunities increased with Cal becoming the basketball coach.
Well, the expectations did. Yeah.
You told me we're going to lose a non-conference game and they're going to be doubling me.
They're going to tar and feather me and fire him and throw Hunter out the door.
But it feels great right now.
Well, I mean, that's just the nature of managing and expecting expectations. But if you put the right people together in the right place and people work hard, you got a chance to win. Sometimes you just don't. You can hit the perfect shot towards the green and it'll hit the sprinkler head and go left. You can't plan on that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you throw it up from half court and the ball goes in. Sometimes you got to lay up and you blow it. But you're in a position to win. Arkansas has always been in a position to be successful. And I just think about, growing up, the motto I grew up in, the state was the land of opportunity. It is a natural, beautiful state, but it is the land of opportunity and has been the land of opportunity for a long time.
So Cal gets introduced at this press conference, and I didn't see a standing ovation for John Tyson coming, but I think everybody loved it. What did it mean? What did it mean to you?
Surprised, humbled. I stood up and acknowledged, and I sat down hoping the guy that was doing the interview with Coach would say, "Thank you, John," and would grab it and just and take it. And my daughter made me stand up again, but it was more than humbling. It was very kind of people. But I think it also said to me, this state wants to come together and rally around something. And that's what the Razorbacks are, right. I mean, Arkansas State and its following and stuff like that, and some of the other schools, but this state is unique in that there really is one sports team in the state, and it's called the Razorbacks all over the state. And when you travel and you say you're a Hog fan or a Razorbacks, and people talk about the Hog Snout and Woo Pig Suey and things like that, it's a moment of pride. But it's very humbling and very thankful of the fans doing that. So
I don't know if you heard it. DJ Derek was there playing some music around the festivities, and he started playing a little Chicken Fried.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And
Zach Brown's son.
That's
yeah.
right. That's
Uh-huh.
right. And then from there, we've started hearing more about the Chicken Man. And I don't know. Have you had a bump in sales? Have you noticed?
We had some fun with the talk shows in Kentucky.
Yeah.
We sent them some product. We sent them some Tyson Food T-shirts. The folks up there's been some little back and forth, laughing and giggling and stuff. I guess what surprised me was listening to people refer to some of our products. The number of people that referred to growing up on Dino Nuggets. I mean, this country grew up on Tyson Dino Nuggets. And you would see these people saying, well, are you going to eat Dino Nuggets again? Never going to eat Dino Nuggets again. So we sent them some Dino Nuggets with some swag and stuff like. So we had fun that way with the different talk shows around. And I do hope the awareness went up. So usually with marketing awareness, you get a chance for people to maybe go buy your product. But the give and take, the needling between the different sports programs and things like that. Our marketing department, the people over there, Melanie and Ingrid and her team did a really good, have fun with it and stuff like that. So yeah, we sent out some care packages and some Tyson swag, some Arkansas swag, and some Dino Nuggets and stuff like that.
That's fantastic. I've never seen so many Kentucky fans talking to Arkansas fans on social media.
Yeah, and we created relationships. And we got a big presence, in Kentucky. I think we got 4,000 plus people there. We just built a brand new bacon plant in Kentucky for our business. So Kentucky's been a good state to do business in.
John, I ask everybody that we interview on the Hog Pod, usually it's a coach or an athlete, when your time here is done, how do you hope to be remembered?
Oh, that we tried to do it the right way. That we tried to do it, that every day we strive to do it the right way.
It's pretty good.
Some days we step on our toes, self-inflicted.
But hang around, stay in there, and you have a chance. Right?
Stay in there, you got a chance. So we tried our best. That there's no regrets. I've been blessed. The good Lord's blessed me and my children, friends, and it's just the pride of being a Hog fan. I mean, once you grow up a Hog fan, I go all the way back to back in the early '60s. And once you're a Hog fan, it's just you're a Hog fan. You can't explain it to anybody. Probably like being a Cubs fan. You're a Cubs fan. You're a Cubs fan. You're a Hog fan, you're a Hog fan. And you respect your teams and stuff. But it's a good state. It's a great state. There's great people throughout this state. I think what Hunter's done over there, building out all the programs, all the sports across the deal. Sam's working hard in football. I think him and Bobby will work hard there. Looking forward to seeing what they'll have this fall. And then, John and I, it'll be nice to watch my friend coach and be able to have dinner with him.
Were you kind of setting this up years ago when you just started taking them to Herman's and people would call the Hogs and you were
just have a place to go eat? Where do we want to go eat?
Yeah.
Talk about different places to go. Just have a place and a quiet place and stuff like that. They would ask for different kinds of foods, and of course, when you ask for good type barbecue or something like that at the time, you go to Herman's and sit there. And then the history that's on the walls of Herman's. You think about you and the in the sports writing business. I mean, back then when you didn't have iPads and you didn't have communication, all the sports writers would go to Herman's after they had filed their stories. So on Saturday night, Herman would stay open past 9 o'clock for Orville to show up, for the guys out of the Fort Worth paper to show up. They would all show up there from 9 to 12 or 1 o'clock after they had filed their stories, and they would go. And so the history of what went on historical from you in the media and how you had to write back in the 60s and 70s and write the story and send it in, and then Herman would say it would be one of the few restaurants open for everybody to come. And I would hear the stories from Herman and my dad about all these great writers, Sherrod from Fort Worth and some of the big names, Orwell from here and from all the big papers, just going there and sitting around having a dinner and talking about what was going on in the world of sports. So there's some uniqueness that happened through Northwest Arkansas, and that's why it's a great place to live, and why Arkansas University sports is really the amenity of the sporting community, and we're playing at a very, very high level in all sports. I mean, softball's up to number 8 now. Golf in top 10. Chris wins a national championship in indoor over there. And volleyball, you look at the success of the gymnastics team getting to the final 8. I mean, you're in the game, people, and that's why you ought to be a damn proud state.
Good time to be a Razorback.
It's just a good time to be somebody in the state of Arkansas and people working hard. It's a good state.